Hello, Twitch. Come on. Being slow today. Oh, there we are. Alright, so we're going to just go ahead and stream some game dev, but as soon as the last stream ended, the cold I got on the way back from my vacation hit like a truck. You can probably still hear it pretty clearly in my voice. So I'm not really on top of my game. Streaming indie dev. Still a bit sick doing mission stuff. Anyway, that's a nice way to say that I don't know how long this stream is going to be, and there might be some gross noises into the mic. I'll try not to make them too common, but as you can hear, I don't have too much control over it. All right. So my brain is in pretty good condition. I mean, it's not great ever, but it's much better condition than my throat. So it's not like I'm going to be coding in a haze, at least no more than usual. It's just that I won't be able to talk very well, and sometimes I'll make gross noises. Won't that be fun? I know, it's what everybody dreams of listening to. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to start to implement the mission system a little bit better. We've already got the basic setup for the mission system, but what we don't have is the mission layering system, where we're trying to get several missions operating in tandem, and they stack together on top of each other, and then they resolve at a certain pace. So here's the way that works. Each mission has a specific scene that counts as its ultimate scene, as its most important scene. It's not always the last scene, but it's usually near the end. And what we do is we find other scenes that have the same keywords and in other threads, and then we just make those threads, we just pull them in and make them part of the groove. And then what we do is we march through all of the open threads at the same time, pacing it so that they all have the last scene at the same time. And it's not as hard as it sounds, but it does require some programming, and not least of which is the fact that we don't have any concept of keywords in a scene or ultimate scenes or anything like that. So let's take a look. If we pop open our mission scene, this is the mission system we've got set up right now. And basically it contains a mission object, which in turn contains a variety of scene objects, which in turn contain a variety of challenge objects. Now, the way this is going to work is that these scenes, one of them is going to be marked as the most important scene, the crux or something. Let's go with thesaurus that while I'm still thinking about thesaurus. Crux. Nub. Pivotal scene. Yeah, we'll call it the pivotal scene. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to have that be a thing, and it's going to have some keywords in it. Now, the question is whether or not we need all of our scenes to have keywords, or is it just going to be the crux, the pivotal scene? I think it might be good to have all of our scenes have keywords, but that might also be a lot of extra typing. That doesn't really mean anything. If the scenes aside from the pivotal scene are never going to matter, then who cares, right? But we still need to have the ability to have the pivotal scene have keywords. So what we'll do, I guess, is we will give the pivotal scene a mark, but how are we going to add keywords to it? Right now we have a custom editor for the pivotal scenes. It's up here in our, somewhere here. Here it is. A mission editor, scene editor. What we're going to need to do is add a couple of new values to the scene and to the scene editor so that everything lines up well. Hello? Okay, apparently you've decided you're not going to run. We're just going to start you over until you actually work. Won't that be nice? This IDE, it is not great. There we go. So we'll just manually open it. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to have primary scenes, advanced turns when they next. So the reason that I'm a little bit hesitant to talk about whether something is primary or pivotal, those are two very similar terms, and we need to be sure to keep them separate. Basically, a primary scene is one where it will return back up to the mission main control when it ends, which is almost always true. It might always be true. So that's not something that we're going to be editing a lot of. It's not even an option to edit right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a secondary, another bool. Tooltip. The most important scene in a mission chain, like so. We're also going to need to have a set of keywords. So public list string keywords. Keywords to match pivotal scenes, non-pivotal scenes. Do not care about keywords. Now, to be honest, the keywords themselves are probably not what we're going to be using in the long run. We've got a lot of things left to put into the missions that don't exist right now. For example, we've got to put in effects, like when you go somewhere and the background changes. So, are you warping in? Is it just a camera cut? Are you still where you were last time? These are the sorts of things that are going to matter more later on. And it might be worth putting them in now. Is my brain working well enough to do that, though? Because really what the keywords are is they are simply those elements. So, the keyword would be the kind of planet that you went to. But for now, we'll just go ahead and leave them with keywords. We can always polish this up later. So over here in the scene editor, we're going to need to make sure that we have that available as something that we can edit. You can see that what we've got here is a series of begin verticals within a begin horizontal. And what that is it is this. So this is all we're showing. And so what we're going to do is above this, we're going to go ahead and show a checkbox for whether or not the scene is pivotal. So hold on, how did I do this? I didn't... Yeah, it's fine. So what we're going to do is, Been a while since I touched this stuff, so I'm trying to remember the best way to do it. Begin toggle group. I think that I just want a toggle. I don't really need a group. Is it a checkbox? No, it's just... That's a help box. I could make a drop-down box for it, but it's just a Boolean. Is it a knob? I think a knob is something that you drag, yeah. It's not a knob. Property field, is that what we want? It doesn't seem right. I'm blanking on the actual... Oh, there it is. It's just called a toggle. Okay, good enough for me. So obviously we're going to pass it in the toggle from the scene as to whether or not it's an active challenge, not an active challenge, pivotal challenge. And then we're going to pass in... What else do we need? Nothing. Oh, a label. We can pass it a label. Nice, so we don't have to create a label for it. And then we're going to go ahead and set that up as bool pivotal equals, and then we say if pivotal does not equal scene.pivotal. Oh wow, my voice is already going, and I've only been going for like 5 minutes. Scene.pivotal, scene equals pivotal. And then here we say if pivotal. I'm presuming that it returns the correct value of the toggle and not whether it's changed. Give me a moment. I gotta turn off my oven. Oh. Yeah. Ooh, I also almost broke my knee on vacation, so that's a fun little thing for me to be dealing with while you're sick. I guess it's good because you're sick. You can't really get out of bed, so hopefully my knee did not need exercise because it didn't get very much. If we're pivotal, what we're going to do is we are going to show the keyword editor, which I can't remember if there's an easy way to do this. I think that it's a dumb thing to do it like I did with this, because this is like a hack that I made to make sure that all the things were at the same speed and rate and stuff. The same length. But what I really want to do for this is just show the standard editor for that particular element. So let's see whether or not the editor GUI layout has an array. I don't think it does. There is a way to do it, but I don't remember it. Drew Van Camp says, oh wait, just custom inspector. Yep. Architecture tips nonetheless. Yeah, welcome. I did not expect to see anybody today, but you're welcome. And I'm sick, so pardon any weird noises I make. But I'm going to go ahead and try to remember how Google, or Unity does this by asking Google. Unity editor, default property editor. Draw default. I don't want to draw the default inspector. I just want to draw the default for that one property. Can I just say property field? A serialized property. So I'd have to serialize it for that, but it's already serialized, so I have to fetch the serialized property. I don't remember how to do that. Let's see here. So in order to do that, what I've got to do is I've got to establish it up here. Serialized property. Keywords. We'll just call it keywords. And now technically this is an array of strings. They are using some hardcore old school stuff like that. I'm not going to bother. We're going to just call it what it is, and we'll say void on enable. I have a feeling this isn't going to work. Something went wrong with it last time I tried to do this. So this would be serialized object.find property. And we're going to find the property keywords, which is what I called it. And then what we'll do down here is we'll tell it to serialize that, or use that serialized property, which is going to be keywords. And then what else are we passing it here? A label? I guess maybe that's all I need. That would be nice. Well, that's interesting. Oh, it's not automatically converting it from a GUI content. Okay. New GUI content. Keywords. Alright, so when we do that, who knows if that'll work? Let's find out. Grind, grind, grind. It barfed. So what's it got to tell us? Does not contain a definition for a pivotal scene. It sure as fuck does. Could you recompile at some point? That would be nice. Okay. Thank you. So now I hit pivotal, a keywords pops up, and it's empty. It's not giving me the full default set of options, because this should be an array, and it's not. It is just that. So that didn't work for an array system. That didn't work. I'm tempted to just make it one string and screw it. I can split it apart myself or something. Which isn't really ideal, but I don't want to fuck with the editor to do something very obvious and basic and simple that it just refuses to do. There is definitely some way to just do it, but unfortunately trying to get it to actually show up is just a matter of finding the one Google keyword. Use editor GUI property field. Okay. So, do I need to use editor GUI property field instead of editor GUI layout property field? Is that the problem here? Because that's dumb. So let's see what this has to say for itself. Rect position. I really don't want to have to give it a position. I have a feeling it's the same thing, just with the automated position not happening properly. So that's not going to help. It's somebody giving the wrong advice. I'm shocked. Someone with the wrong advice on the internet. Okay, so here, someone is saying that what I should do is... No, they're editing a specific element. Editor GUI layout. Keywords. Well, he's passing true. Oh, there's the problem. I have to pass it true. Okay, let's try this. Because that was obvious, right? Okay. Now you gonna barf again? Alright, so I don't know. We'll just go ahead and see what I can do here. Just keep deleting crap. Is there some noise on in the background? Oh, I think that might be my neighbors. Now, let me know if there's something besides my voice in the speakers that you're hearing, because I don't intend to be broadcasting any music or anything. That would be a disaster. Oh, there we are. So I had to pass it true in order for it to work. Okay, that's fine. I can live with that. It's not terribly opaque, but whatever. Drew Van Camp can't hear anything bad, so that's fine. And he's done some custom inspectors, and it always pays off, but he can never remember how to do them. Yeah, well, for 99% of the stuff I do, I don't need a custom inspector. I just need to do things like put dividers and stuff into the normal, the default inspector, and that stuff you can do by just putting tags into the class definition. You don't have to have a custom inspector for that. But in this case, I had to do this part, which is a series of things that has to be lined up perfectly all the time. So I needed a custom inspector. It's not a very complicated custom inspector. The only thing that was really screwing me over was just the fact that I couldn't figure out how to do this. But now that I've got it done, that's fine. Only thing left to do is to add a gap. So editor GUI layout dot separator or space, whichever one works. Because we don't want them to think that we don't want me to think that these are part of the keywords list. So by doing that, it should, there we go. That's a separator. That's like 2 pixels. All right. Okay, so the separator and the space are the same thing, and they're both very small. Fine. Separator, separator. Just put in 2 of them. It'll be fine. Drew Van Camp eventually made himself a custom one, just a template, so that he wouldn't have to keep doing it over and over. That might be a good idea. I just never bothered because it only takes about 2 minutes to look up, and you only have to look it up once per project. It takes less time than uninstalling the crap that Unity forces you to install these days. Alright, so now what we've got is a setup where we can have keywords and they'll turn off if we're not pivotal. Very basic, see? Only problem is that this slider is supposed to be below the pivotal part, which was just me being stupid and forgetting about this. So we'll just drag it down here. I guess we don't need the separators nearly so aggressive if we're going to have a slider there instead. There we are. So now that we've got that set up, we shouldn't have any hard time setting this to work. Right now, the only issue is that we don't have any sort of scene-specific descriptors. The individual tasks pop things up and describe things and so on, but the actual scene really doesn't. So in order for us to be able to remember what the scenes are, we should probably have a notes field. And maybe something where if we come into the scene, a specific thing is played. But I haven't got enough in mind to know exactly what needs to get played when you start up a scene, because it could be like a transition to a new location, or someone popping up on screen, or a new kind of ship appearing. And that's kind of complicated, so for now we're going to just fake it with a notes field, and we'll come back to it later. So with the notes field, all we have to do is put it in right here. It's going to be string notes equals scene.notes, except for it's actually editor GUI layout.text field, text area or text field. I think it's text field. Maybe. Scene.notes, notes. If notes does not equal scene.notes, then scene.notes equals notes. Now, I know that there are better ways to do this. In specific, I think that the way that we're doing the keywords is actually the better way to do it, as far as I remember. But I can't be bothered, so we're gonna do it the old way. Area is for the bigger ones. Oh, there you are. You are correct. Let's go ahead and give ourselves a nice big one. Notes, notes. Okay, so that didn't work. Why did you do this? Oh, I see. It's red. I don't know why it's red and why it's barfing. So we're having this layout bug. So the problem here is that Unity will sometimes just barf and explode if you're using a custom skin. Which, you know, the whole reason to get, for about a year, the whole reason to get a Unity license was the fact that they let you use a custom skin, because the bright skin just is eye-bleedingly bright. But unfortunately, it doesn't work very well and it frequently breaks. And it looks like that's what's happened here. So we're just going to go ahead and not do that. We're only going to have a small note field for this, and something we'll just live with. I don't care enough to track down the cause and fix it. If I rebooted Unity, it would probably work again, but whatever. And what I've done is I've accidentally set it up to be notes. That doesn't seem right. Oh. Yeah, that'll work. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that it saves properly by switching and then coming back. Yep, seems fine. So maybe the reason the text area wasn't working was because of that, because I had that backwards. Maybe it'll be fine this time. Let's find out. Nope. Okay. So none of that. All right, so with this in mind, we can now build ourselves scenes, which can be pivotal and can have notes, and we can actually keep track of what's going on. But you know what we don't have is the ability to actually do anything. We have to be able to weave together several different missions at a time, create new missions and all that sort of stuff. But you know what we don't have? Any missions. We don't have any. We have this test mission. It's 2 scenes long. So what we're going to do is turn off the heat. Give me a second. Why is it so hot in here all the time today? Making me feel like my fever came back. I guess I need more cowbell. All right, so instead of this this basic trash hauler thing, we're going to do a different mission, which is just going to be just duplicate this mission here, and we will create ourselves just a set of test missions that we can actually weave together. So this is going to be, how about just a liner ferrying mission, a passenger ferrying mission. So this mission here will have a couple of scenes, and we'll just name them and put them in a row. So we're going to have go to local station, pick up passengers, and then duplicate. Go to distant, warp to distant star. Then it's go to local station again and drop off passengers. Not a terribly exciting set of duties, but as you can see, this is 5 scenes long instead of 2, which is enough for us to start getting some work done. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to expand this to 5 and drop these in one at a time here. One of the things that we can also do if we want to is create a button that will automatically fill this with whatever it detects in order if we think that this is the sort of thing that's going to be happening a lot, and I think it is. So let's go ahead and do exactly that over here in our mission. We don't actually have it set up properly yet, so let's go. Don't have it opened rather, so let's go ahead and go back down here into the mission. Pop up in the mission. We're going to create a quick little function that just allows us to grab all of the scenes inside and line them up properly. Public void fill with child scenes. Autofill with child scenes. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a list of all of the child scenes. So scene array scenes equals get components in children scenes. And then we're going to say that length equals scenes.length. And then we're just going to go through and put all the scenes into that list, which I think we can do just by saying successes equals new list scene scenes. Yeah, that should do. And then what we can do is grab this and do it again here in scene. Hold on, I forgot to put in the thing where we can actually call it. Context menu, autofill with scenes. And then over here in the scene, we're going to do the same thing, but obviously it's not going to be for scenes, it's going to be for challenges. Well, I think that the reason it's so hot in here is just because the temperature is actually kind of nice today, and I'm sitting under the sun, and I'm talking, and talking raises the temperature quite a bit. That's not how you spell it. Challenge challenges equals get components in children challenge. And then we say length equals challenges.length. And is it successes? Yeah, okay. So it's still successes and failures. So that's fine. There we go. Yeah, I'm sick because my airline was a piece of shit. Alaska not only took me 30 hours to get home, but then they stranded me on the pavement 10 miles from my apartment for an hour. So it's going to be a while before I use Alaska again. They were pretty dickish. My way out was just as bad. It was with their cohort, but still the same planes, flown by the same people. And they had no food on either flight. So that was 20 hours out with no food. And they were an hour late. So I didn't get to actually stop and eat in the other airport during the layover, because the layover was negative 20 minutes long. Air travel is just awful. All right, so here it is. We're going to go ahead and tell it just to see whether or not it works. We wouldn't have seen any changes, but there we have it. So what we've done now is we've created this mission where it has the ability to go out and do the stuff. But you know what we don't have on this mission? Notes. So we're going to go ahead and add a notes field to the mission, same as we did for the rest. And then we're going to go over into the notes editor here. Doop. Same deal as with the scene editor. It's just going to be this. Shoop. Except, obviously, it's going to be the mission instead of the scene. Motion. There we are. All right, so now we should be able to just take notes in either direction. Yeah, Drew Van Camp is saying that he doesn't even fly anymore because, you know, the planes are such a mess. Yeah, I'm not a fan, as you can hear in my voice. All right, so this is going to be a simple pick up, drop off ferry mission one way. And we're going to call this passenger liner one way. So what we're going to do is go over here to drop off passengers. This is going to be our pivotal scene. And we're going to give it one note, which are two notes rather, two keywords. One of which will be station. And one of which will be drop off passengers. Drop off people. Be generic. People. So with that in mind, anything that we have, any other missions that we have where the pivotal scene has either a station or a people drop-off involved can immediately be mixed into this, at least in theory. We're going to see how that goes. But first we actually have to set up the challenges because they basically don't exist. So the engine challenge will happen first. We're going to need to get to the location. And for that, what we're going to do is use an equal sign and a value of 5. And what that means is it's going to be, you have to keep playing engine cards until you reach at least 5. Engine cards, engine subsystems until you reach at least 5. So if we hit play, and then we tell this passenger liner one way to fire up, you can see that it now says that we're going to want to go 5. And if we pop open our navigation, we've got a navigation of 5, so it won't work. Did I make a mistake? Is it not equals? Is it like tilde or something? That's equals. For some reason it didn't trigger properly. Let's go ahead and make it equals 8. Maybe the problem is that it's not yet ready to correctly trigger it. So we're going to just go ahead and next it. And you can see it says equals 8. And if we pop open this, we can tell it to go. And it didn't do jack. Success rate of -3, which is correct. But it should now say 3 up here. It didn't update. So if we go over here into the engines visual, I bet that the problem is that it's not set to update every frame. That's the wrong sidebar. Come on. There we are. Here's the challenge UI, and if we take a look at the UI binder, it is not set to refresh every frame. If we tell it to refresh every frame, you can see that it now says 3 instead. So what we've got to do is just set that up. It's no big deal. Over here in our prefabs UI, there should be a challenge UI. And there it is. Just boop. So now that we have that set up, we should be able to proceed through the missions. But here's the problem. Right now, we don't have any setup for what happens when you do not have a system left to play. Because what should happen is that time should advance and you should get all your systems back. But I don't want that to be automatic. I want that to be manual because there are times when you're going to want to pull a trick. For now, we're going to just leave it. We'll get back to it later. But what we're going to need to do is bring this back down to maybe a 3. So the description here, we're going to go ahead and say dock with station. And instead of calling this go to, we're going to call it dock to local station. Because go is very generic, and I'd like to use words that I can use as keywords later. You know. So that's all good. And in fact, this here, one of the keywords is station, but there is actually no docking to station in this portion. It's its own scene, and we already docked to the station. Maybe disembark might be a better one, because you're getting off at this point. You're not staying there. Well, whatever. Anyway, we got an engine challenge for before briefing. Station is nearby. Let's dock for passengers. And then down here, we're going to do the next one, which is not locate trash at all. It's going to be nothing. It's going to be docked. So just delete it. Boink. There we are. So now what we do here is if we hit this and we say autofill with challenges, you can see how it is now only one long. Perfect, right? Now the problem is that we don't have really anything set up. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Because it's been a while since I actually looked at how this runs. Excuse me. So we can dock with the station by hitting engineering or hitting navigation, chemical tanks. But you can see how, although it resolved it, it didn't move on to the next task. And I think that there's something screwy with how it's currently registering this stuff. So let's take a look here. If not c.ongoing, so this is if it's not ongoing. If it is ongoing, so basically our success rate has to be a positive number, I think, a 0 or higher. If success is greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0, then bulletin board.say c.victory briefing. There is no way to fail these aside from not having any engines left, or not having any whatevers left. All right. So just give that a little bit of a wiggle. Dev tools are a wonderful thing. Yeah, it's too bad that Unity's not great at them. But that's okay. We'll live. So if we take a passenger liner, we set this up, hit next, we can now go over into our navigation system and turn on those engines and kick it into overdrive. And you can see that what happened is we popped over to this void challenge. I'm actually thinking that that void challenge is this engine challenge. Yeah. Even though this is called an engine challenge, it actually hasn't got a name or an icon or anything, which is why it's coming up here as void. The name of the object has nothing to do with what the player sees when it pops up, and that's on purpose, even if it might not be very bright. So let's go ahead and make this work. We're going to have I think we're going to have two elements here. That's getting to the station, but we're also going to need to have, before that, a docking permit check. And the docking permit check is just a value of less than or equal to 5 with the command. Negotiate docking permissions. Call the station, make sure our permit's still valid. Permits valid. And otherwise, it's going to be something like permits not valid. We're going to be fined. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and create a little bit of a fork here just for kicks, you know. So after the docking permit check, we're going to have a permit failure check. permit failure scene challenge. The problem is that right now we don't have any sort of penalties. We don't have any way to cost you money or anything. That sort of thing doesn't happen, but we can do it. Yeah. So right now the only problem is that our setup doesn't have an on failure. It has an on complete, not an on failure. Now the on complete passes an int32, but I think it would be better that int32 can be parsed and we can tell whether it's a completion or a success or a failure. But I think it would be better if we actually had an on success and an on failure separately, just so that we can do this a little bit better, a little bit easier. So down here in the challenge, we've got this. We're going to go ahead and extend that to on success, on failure. And then what we'll do is we will c.onSuccess.invoke. And then here we're going to do the same thing. Now the only problem is that currently we're doing them in two different orders. So to keep the orders straight, we're going to just move this so that it's in the same order as above. I don't really care what the order is as long as it's consistent. All right, so now what we have is an on success and an on failure that get invoked when you succeed and you fail. And the reason that that's cool is it's because we can do things without having a separate scene specifically for failing. What we can do is we can have an on failure event that gets called. And basically what happens is we can tell this to cost us money. Now you might be wondering, how do you tell it to cost you money? Well, that's the problem now, isn't it? We need to have a global function that we can call, and that can be here on the challenge, or it can be some kind of global state. It could also be related to the ship. I think for now, putting it on the challenge is a bad idea. I think we're going to want to have like a global company element, and I don't believe that we have one right now. I think that right now it is all just local things, which is fine, but we're going to want to have a global company state. So let's go ahead and create one. And this is very close to being so I've forgotten the name. I'm blanking. Not a soliton. That's like something for magnets. Singleton. It's sort of like having a singleton, except for it's not a singleton. It's a singleton in the scene, but we can have multiple instances of these singletons, either in the scene by wrangling some fun stuff, or outside of the scene so that we could wrangle multiple companies or do some simulations in the background. So even though we're going to be treating it like a singleton, it is not a singleton, and that's an important thing to keep in mind when you're building these. So we're going to just have a company state. Weyland-Yutani game object time, yeah. So over here in mission control, well, I guess we can put it there. Let's put it in its own object. Which we will drop in right here. And as before, like you've noticed, we're gonna want to set this for not to auto destroy it. I don't remember how to do that. Hold on there. I do it, so I just have to look up how I do it. It's over here in the pufferfish. Hiccups galore. Huh. I thought it was here. I think it's just called don't destroy on load or something basic like that. Yeah, there it is. So public static company state active, and that's going to allow us to just store one of these singletons, whichever one happens to be active at the moment. And once we've done that, why is that underlined? Well, whatever. Once we've done that, what we can do is we can say if active. Oh, it's not active. That's right. It's live. Active is a reserved keyword. So if live, then we want to destroy ourselves. So debug.log destroying debug company module name, and then destroy this.gameObject, or just gameObject will work. Return. Otherwise, live equals this. Now the reason that that's there is because we're going to have the company kind of follow us through the scenes, because it's basically just a global object. But what we're going to need to do is we're going to also have company objects in those scenes for debug purposes, so that we won't ever have a problem where there's no company object in the scene. Now that's not ideal in terms of, you know, not being dumb, but it is really handy for debugging things. So that's what we're going to do. So once we've done that, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have this company state have state. So public int cache, and we're going to go ahead and give it $10,000 to start with. So now here's the issue. What we need to do is we need to be able to tell this company to lose cache or gain cache or any of that stuff, right? If we come up here to the static, we can go ahead and say public static delta cache int delta. And then we can just say live.cache plus equals delta, right? Except for this is going to be an underscore cache for reasons that will become obvious, because this is going to be public static int cache. We don't need that at all, because public static int cache get return live. Come on, Craig. Live.cache. Spacebucks indeed. Set live.cache equals cache, our value. Now this is something that won't work. It'll crash if there is no live object, and we're going to run into that problem, but we can fix it when it comes up. It's not a noticeable issue. The only thing is we're going to want to change this from start to awake so that it happens a little bit earlier in the scene. Now the problem here is that we can't actually access the static values. Watch, I'll show you. Public void blah blah blah. Oh, sorry, public static void blah. And we'll say debug.log blah. So the idea here is that what we want to be able to do is on our various company, there it is, there we are, on our various scenes, what we want to be able to do is to drop the static variable in here. But we can't do that because what happens is that it barfs out, see? So we have to have a way to allow this to access the cache variable on the barracks and change it, or on the company rather, and change it. Because the company is not going to be the same. It's going to keep changing. And that's kind of obnoxious, but it means that I think we're going to have to put this sort of thing on the mission challenge elements, which is not terrible, but it's not ideal either. Drew Van Camp says to use blah more. Blah is great because it really shows you that this is something you should delete. If you're doing like foo and bar and stuff, then you might be like, oh, is this actually like code? Because sometimes someone might cut and paste code and it's actually got foos and bars in it, and you're like, eh. But nobody cuts and pastes blah and means it to be there. That's like, blah means I didn't finish this. And sure, I could write, I didn't finish this, but that's a lot more effort than writing blah. I could also write, but that's also a lot more effort than writing blah. Public void change cache int change. And then what we'll do is we'll just go out to the company state and plus equals change. That's simple. Debug.log cache changing by and then change. Yeah, I don't use foo or bar either, but just because they're used in so many tutorials, and I've seen too many students have foos and bars still in their code due to copying the tutorials just like flat copy. And it always struck me as a little dangerous, so I don't do anything that could be mistaken for that. So now what we can do is we can go over into our permit check, and when we fail, rather than going over to a company object that may or may not exist, we can come down here into challenge and change the cache like this, and we can just charge ourselves 10 bucks. See? Pretty easy. So now what happens is this will say permits not valid, $10 registration fee charged. Re-registration fee. So now what we've got is a situation where we need a low command score, 5 or less. Now in the previous sessions, that's probably too high. Let's make it 4 or less. In the previous sessions I've made it clear, but it has been a while, so I'll make it clear again. What we're doing here is we've got 3 basic kinds of challenges. Oh, I forgot to... Hold on. There we are. What we've got is we've got 3 basic kinds of challenges. We've got challenges where you're trying to get above a certain value, challenges where you're trying to get below a certain value, and challenges where you're trying to reach a certain value, reach or exceed. And the difference, the one with the last one is just because it can take multiple turns to get there. But the previous ones, you only get one shot. You can only submit one system. So when you take a look at your systems here, over here in command, we've got a system of 3 and a system of 5. Well, negotiate docking permissions requires a low command. So we should use our video screens because that's a lower number. See? But I want to check and make sure that the failure works. So let's go ahead and fail out. That's a really slow crawl. I'll probably have to fix that a little bit. Permit's not valid, $10. And let's go ahead and see whether that $10 actually got charged. Where's the company? Oh, it's down here. Yep, we are down to 9,990. Poor us. So that means that you can build yourself a ship with, like, Drew Van Camp says, so the player will do business with various companies. Well, yes, but that's kind of incidental. The idea here is that you can build yourself a ship that's got, like, maxed out values in all of its subsystems, but then these low challenges aren't going to work out in your favor. So what you really need to do is understand the kinds of challenges you're going to be facing and rig up for them specifically. I mean, this is a passenger liner. When are you going to need an overbearing commander to organize like a planetary raid? That's not going to happen with a passenger liner, right? So what you do is you understand that low numbers are precision numbers and high numbers are power numbers. So, you know, judge accordingly. It's a liner. Engine's good. Yeah, engines as a high number, that's good. Command is a high number, probably not. So with that in mind, you can set that up. And of course, you can also do a whole bunch of stuff with the actual abilities of the various systems. And you can flip abilities on and off and do stuff like that to change the situation. Or you can use your crew's special abilities because they have a variety of special abilities that can help you out as well. So all of those things combined will allow you to get a lot of meat out of the design of your ship without having a lot of complexity in terms of how that challenge is presented. So a beginner, they'll see these challenges and they'll be like, oh, I'll just tick on through. And then a more advanced player will be like, okay, well, I know that I've got this happening now. I'll have to delay that and then get it again next turn. And then I'll push this one forward a turn and then pull that out an extra number so that I can make it and, you know, stuff like that. That's the idea. We'll see whether it works. But primarily the goal here is to create ships that can weather disasters. And this mission has no disasters in it. This is the Foundation mission. The disasters get piled on top. But we'll get to those in a little bit here. Picking up the passengers, I think that this is going to be a command and sensor check. So over here, we're going to go ahead and call this the command check. And we'll just go ahead and set this sprite up as a command sprite. And we're going to want, again, a low command number. And then the description will be, call call for passenger boarding. Actually, this one might be better if it's a high number, so we'll go ahead and make it greater than 2. So it's not a very difficult one. And then here we'll say time for boarding. Let's call our passengers. And obviously we're doing really, really boring missions on purpose for the test missions. Exciting. I don't feel confident that I can create exciting missions yet because I don't know all the details of how to do it. And then the victory briefing here will be, no problem, passengers accounted for. Otherwise, we'll get a failure briefing of, we are running a bit late. $10 docking charge, because why not, right? We'll just nickel and dime failing players, which is handy because it lets us fail them without actually failing them. So even if they fail all of these tests, they'll still make enough money to have made a profit, but they won't have made very much. That's the idea here. And then the next one is going to be a sensor check, where we do a less than. Security check. Let's check papers and scan for dangers. Dangerous goods. Victory briefing will be something like, okay, ready to rock. Otherwise, we're going to have a failure, and it's going to be illegal Venusian toads not caught. $10 fine. Obviously, this is a very, very boring way to do it, but that's fine for now. We'll come back to it later. So we're also going to want the detach in this same setup. So we're going to call this just engine. And this is not going to be negotiate with locals. This is going to be sensor or dish. Engine is going to be value of less than 5, which should be something that you'd have to try very hard to fail, but who knows. Let's undock. Time to leave berth. We're away. We banged the space station on the way out. $50 fine. Boop, boop, boop. And then we'll just here say autofill with challenges. And this will be, we'll just leave it like this. There's no more need for any. So, Drew Van Camp says he's unclear what these numbers represent. So presumably he's talking about the numbers in the challenges. So this is something that's not clear because we're starting in the middle of the game rather than at the beginning of the game. But I'll go ahead and describe it. So what happens is that the ship here, when you build it, I'll go over and show you. We'll go build it. So if we go over into the construction side, hit play. There we go. What we've got is we've got a couple of systems on this hull of a ship that has no stuff in it, right? This is like a cargo hauler that's got no systems, but there's slots for 3 systems: command, support, and engines. We can assign subsystems to anything we'd like, and you can see that the subsystems have a specific quality. In this case, all of them have a quality of 3. But some of them have different abilities. For example, this power conduit has a 5 when it's on the support section. So when I add it to the support section, you can see that it comes up as a 5. And you can see that that has a visual attached to it. So it's a shipbuilding budget. So you own a junkyard, and you have a random assortment of subsystems, and you're trying to build ships that can actually do the things you want them to do by assigning the subsystems correctly. And there's a lot of tricks you can use, like you can actually assign things to the wrong subsystem and then switch them over in the middle of gameplay. So you can be real clever with that sort of thing. For example, the video screens are particularly good at that. It switches between command and sensors. So with that in mind, we could put the video screens here on command, and we know that we'll be able to use them as sensors if we need to later on. Now, the better your setup is, then the more stuff you'll have on your ship. You can see that the ship gets steadily more big and aggressive as you attach more things to it. But being low isn't necessarily bad. Having low values isn't necessarily bad. If we take these video screens back out and we put them on the engines, for example, our command is now 5, but we happen to know that the liner's very first mission, the liner's very first element here, is that it's going to be a command of less than 4. So if we only have a command of 5, we wouldn't be able to accomplish this mission very well because we wouldn't have any precision command. We wouldn't have any ability to do things quickly and delicately. We would only have the ability to do big things. Of course, the crew members all have special abilities, and so do many of the subsystems. They've got additional special abilities. So as you go through the game, it gets more and more complicated. But the real trick here is that missions will stack. So what you're seeing here is a very primitive mission where we're just going out and we're picking up some crew or picking up some passengers. Then we're moving across space, we're dropping them off, and that's that. But what happens is the system, the computer, chooses additional missions to fold into your missions as complications. And so it's going to find another mission, which doesn't exist yet, which has the same keywords for its pivotal scene. So, for example, it might choose a mission where a spy is trying to escape, and the spy has the pivotal scene of drop off people, because if you drop off the spy, then the spy escaped, and you lose. So that means that the early scenes of that would be folded in with the early scenes of the liner mission. So you would get sort of several more prompts simultaneously, and you have to manage which ones you actually want to submit. And it might very well be that you end up with, the spy is trying to come aboard, and so what you've got is, let's dock first. Oh, that's docking permissions. That's command. My bad. Let's start over. That's dumb. So, like, if the spy was trying to come aboard, then you would have docking, and then you have command, right? Call for passenger boarding. So let's call for passenger boarding. But then what we've got is a security check. Well, if the spy is trying to get aboard, there's going to be another security check here with a greater than. Say, a greater than 3 or a greater than 4. And you can only submit one security subsystem, and it will be applied to both of those checks at the same time. So are you going to try and catch the spy, or are you going to try and do your mission? Do you even know which of those is the spy and which of those is your mission? Because it's not going to be clear, because it's a spy. It's not supposed to be clear. But to make things more complicated, once you have started that spy mission, then your ultimate scene no longer contains just those 2 keywords that it originally contained. It now contains the additional keywords of something like law enforcement or spying or something. And now another set of stories, a B-plot, can be rolled in that has that keyword set as its pivotal scene. And so you can have 3 or 4 different scenes kind of weaving in and out. And it's a very much Drew Van Camp says, sounds like a resource management puzzle. Yeah, the idea here is that you are trying to build these ships, and the game will sit there and you'll be having an easy time of it, and then the game will start to get a little bit aggressive, and you'll start to notice that, the B plots that are folding in are getting pretty rough, and you've got to try to build a better ship so that that ship will be able to handle things like spies. So that's the idea. We'll see whether or not it really works, but it works out on paper. We'll see. Drew Van Camp says, do the numbers represent the number of people that can, personnel that can attend? No. So your crew are never going to be that. I mean, I guess they might theoretically be that much, but most of the time, the numbers only represent. I guess you can just say they represent the number of screens. they're just the amount of juice that goes into that particular operation. So high engine rating means that you're thrusting a lot. You're going super fast. And a low engine rating means you're moving slow, but you got plenty of maneuverability. And the sensors, well, if you've got a high sensor rating, then you can see, distant suns and scan for life on another planet, but you won't be able to see whether there's a ship under your nose because it's calibrated for long range and not short range. Same with command. So that's the idea there. And I might have to make that clearer when I actually write prose and shit. Yep, it's a fine-tuning game. That's the idea. Fine-tuning with programming, because some of this stuff is kind of programmery in a very subtle way. Yeah, it's still a little abstract right now. I'm just working out some of the details here. So the idea is that this game hopefully won't take me 2 years to complete. I'm hoping that it'll take me less than 6 months. But if I keep getting sick, that's not going to happen. Tell you what, though. It's getting really hot in this room. And my voice is going. So I think I might stop here for the night. But let's go ahead and just work for a little bit longer. I think that I'm going to leave soon. So Drew Van Camp says, be right back. He may miss me. Depends on how long I keep working. So we're going to warp to a distant star. We're just going to go ahead and make this a simple challenge where we're gonna scan for and then go. Come on. So when we scan, we're going to want to have a high value because we're scanning far away. So we'll just do dishes, scan for distant, scan for warp. Path. Plotting course. Course found. Otherwise, guess what? Money. We had to ask the station for course guidance. $10. And then when we go, this is going to be an equals, and it's going to be a big number, like 10. And this is going to be an engine challenge, and it's going to be warping. There we are. So once we've arrived, then we just need to do the same thing we did here, dock to the local station. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate that because it's already got all the stuff we want. We don't care to do it again. And then here and drop off passengers. This is going to be our final challenge. So we're going to go ahead and just duplicate the pickup passengers and put it here. And redo the pivotal, keywords 2, drop off people, drop off, add people, no, station, and I guess I should just call it disembark. Yeah, that's dropping off people. All right, so with that in mind, we got the same setups here, command check, dish, engine. We'll just leave it like that for now. We will just call that a complete challenge. Now the problem is that we can't actually navigate that challenge because we don't have the turn properly rolling over. So you can see that we've got this negotiate docking permissions, which we can do with a command here. We want to dock with the station, so we'll go ahead and do that. Call for passenger boarding with a command of greater than... Oh, it did actually work. Okay, never mind. It works fine. But the problem is that we don't have the ability to do it manually, which means that we won't be able to do the warp. Well, let's try it, though. Let's see how it works. So here, it was supposed to do a security check, but our only security is actually very, very big. So we actually won't be able to do that security check. And it didn't work. Oh, my bad. That is not the right... that's command, that's correct. This is dish. It's not supposed to be dish. It's supposed to be support. My bad. And we're going to have the same problem down here. This is also supposed to be support. Dishes are a module. I should really rename those 3 sprites. Let's go ahead and do that right now. So we're going to call these sprite editor, ssoft, shard. I'll call this underscore command, underscore support, and underscore engines. Now my problem here is I think I might actually be causing serious harm. We'll see. No, it worked. Good. I was worried that it wouldn't actually properly rename them, and it would just go to null. But it looks like they fixed that bug, probably a long time ago. There we are. So let's negotiate, and we'll dock with the station, and then we'll call for passenger boarding with command of greater than 2. Security check. We can't do this one. It's going to end up barfing. That's fine. And then we'll undock. We can do this one just barely. Scan the warp path. Oh, it's a dish again. Well, let's scan the warp path with an actual system instead of a... There we are. Good job. Welcome back. I'm almost done for the day because my throat's given out, but we're just going to see if we can get this to work all the way through. And we can't. I already know we can't, but we're going to try it. Hold on. Autofill with scenes. Thank you. So now we're going to try it. Just hit next. So command, shaboomp, engines, shabomp, command, shaboomp, support, zoop, engines, let's go, scanning for warp path, command, negotiate docking permissions. So what just happened is we warped straight past. We never went to the warp to a distant star, presumably because I didn't set it up right. So we're going to go ahead and autofill this with challenges. I just never put in the go. That was the problem. It warped right past the only one that wouldn't have worked. So hey, great. But of course, it doesn't work. There's a problem with it. And that problem is that the ship can't pass any time. So what happens is that we end up with a setup where we cannot do something that requires us to submit several of the same system. Drew Van Camp says, why not have mission script execute in editor to autofill on change? Same for scene challenges. What? Oh! I don't want it to automatically reload everything with this autofill with scenes. I don't want that to be automatic because there are going to be a lot of times when I am doing this with a very specific mindset. This is the most basic kind of scene we've got. We don't have any branching or anything like that, and it won't work on anything that's got branching, which is why we're not going to be using it all the time. Command, engines, command, security, engines, scan. And now here's where it falls apart because we can't click engines again. What we need to be able to do is have a time passing button. And we can put one in, but there isn't one right now. And the reason that there isn't one is because I want to make an entire UI element that tells you the current date, what's going on, how much money your company has, how much money you've gained or lost on this mission, and so on. So because of that, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to have to do it later because I'm going to be going and drinking some honeyed tea. So I will see you folks, or you folk, on Wednesday or Saturday again. And hopefully my voice will be a little bit better off. Have a good one.